therapist Kristen Jacobson.
Do you think you're just an anxious overthinker? Maybe. Or maybe it's your 6-year-old self still terrified they'll be abandoned if they mess up. I see this every day in my practice. Smart, logical, high-achieving adults, people who've read every book, listened to every podcast, understand attachment theory better than most therapists, but they still come to me and say, why am I like this? Why do I spiral over small stuff? Why does someone's silence make me panic? Why do I keep picking people who aren't really there for me? And you want to hear the hardest part? They often blame themselves. They think it's like a personal failing, like they just weren't born calm or confident. Let me clear something up right now. You're not broken or messed up, as one of my clients said just the other day. You're just running on old programming. Your body, really your entire nervous system, learned patterns decades ago, and it's still doing exactly what it was trained to do, even if your logical mind knows better. So let's talk about where this actually comes from. The inner child has been sort of a buzzword lately, and it isn't some mystical inner being. It's simply the part of you that learned how to survive when you were small. So if love was unpredictable, or if you felt like you had to earn praise, or if making a mistake meant getting shamed or ignored, then your brain and your body took notes fast. Your amygdala, that's your brain's alarm system, got trained to detect any tiny sign of rejection or disappointment. And your attachment system, which is the network that decides if people are safe, got set to high alert. So this is why inner child wounds aren't just emotional, they're also physical, and you can't logic your way out of them. When you're a kid and connection feels risky or uncertain, your nervous system adapts. It might decide closeness is risky, so keep your distance, or work your butt off, be perfect, then maybe you'll get acknowledged, or be sure not to need anyone. Needing gets you hurt. You can only rely on yourself. And your body doesn't update the code just because you hit adulthood. It still reacts the same way. That's why your stomach drops when someone seems distant, or why your heart races over a minor conflict, or why you're wired to see small problems as life or death. Because way back then, it kind of was. So what does this look like in grown-up life? Let me give you a few real examples. I've worked with clients who are top performers in their field. So owners of companies, people in high leadership positions, absolutely crushing it on paper. But inside, still a scared little kid, desperate to prove they were worthy of being loved. If business slowed down, they panicked. If someone gave them constructive feedback, they collapsed internally. Because to them, slowing their pace or making a mistake felt like being rejected or feeling inadequate all over again. Another client would get physically sick before sending important emails, not because the stakes were so high, but because deep down they believed if they said something wrong, they'd lose everything. Their body couldn't tell the difference between my coworker might be annoyed and I'm incompetent. See how that works? The adult mind knows it's not that serious, but the inner child wiring says, danger, fix this, now. So how do you actually change this? Not by shaming yourself, not by telling your anxiety to calm down already. That never works, and it actually makes it worse. You change it by reparenting, which really isn't as fluffy as it sounds. It just means you become the supportive, kind presence your younger self didn't have all the time. You start responding to your fears with comfort instead of criticism. So when that panic hits because someone didn't text back, you don't say, ugh, you're so needy. You say, of course this feels scary. You learned early that silence meant you were in trouble. But I'm here, and we're okay right now. It sounds cheesy, but your nervous system doesn't respond to lectures. It responds to tone, to presence, to repetition, and it needs proof that things are different now. Over time, when you keep showing up like this, your brain literally rewires. It's called neuroplasticity. New neural pathways start to override the old fear tracks. And guess what? That's how you start building self-trust. Not by bulldozing through your triggers, but by tending to them. So here's where you begin. Notice when small stuff feels huge. That's usually old wounds, not current reality. It will feel like a disproportionate reaction to the situation at hand. Number 2, you want to offer reassurance, not ridicule. So when that scared kid shows up, treat them with compassion. So I currently have a client and we identified his inner child, and he would get so frustrated with it and call it the little effer. So I really had to work with him on having compassion for that child, because when he got frustrated with it or tried to ignore it or berated it, it would just try to get acknowledged that much more because it didn't get the acknowledgement it needed when he was a child. So I really had to work with him on sort of approaching this inner child just in a very different way. And earlier this week, he came back to me and said, well, you were right. That child part came back with a vengeance, and it caused him to get extremely angry with his partner. So we can see how this really impacts us in the present moment. And then finally, you want to build tiny moments of safety. So putting a hand on your chest, taking a few slow breaths, let yourself feel settled, even if it's just for 10 seconds. And it adds up. That's how your system learns a new normal. So if you're always stuck overthinking, terrified of disappointing people, or feeling like you're grinding for your worth, it's not that you're flawed. It's that your inner child is still trying to keep you safe with the only tools they had at that stage of development. But now you can teach them something new, and that's where real freedom starts.